The Orlando Magic surprised a lot of people last year, and they very well might do it again. Welcome in or welcome back. Lucky number 13, we're talking about the Orlando Magic. And I'm pretty high on the Orlando Magic, only because it's Disneyland, it's the happiest place on earth, and it gets overlooked a lot as far as a basketball city goes. It's so overlooked, in fact, that Paolo Banchero is one of the least talked about number one overall picks ever. Did you know that Paolo Banchero averaged 22, 7, and 5 last year? I bet you didn't, and I bet you didn't know that unless you were a Magic fan or an absolute sicko. Paolo obviously made the All-Star team last year, and you can kind of tell in his off-season comments and interviews and things like that that his snub from the Olympic team is really going to give him some motivation for the upcoming season. And I don't want to be too dramatic because they're obviously very different players, but Paolo kind of reminds me of a young LeBron, someone who is super athletic and understands how to use his body and can dominate on a basketball floor. But again, you wouldn't know that because Paolo Banchero, along with Cade Cunningham, are some of the least talked about number one overall draft picks ever. You obviously can't do it alone, and that's why he has Franz Wagner. If you were watching the Olympics this summer, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that at times he looked like a version of Luka Doncic. Just very in control of the game, understood his role, great facilitator, a great rebounder for his position, a great scorer from the outside. Now, obviously, Germany didn't win gold, but Franz really impressed me for this Olympics. And again, we're having a third video in a row talking about an Olympic bump. I don't see why we couldn't talk about Franz Wagner being an all-star as well. Now, the Magic aren't without problems. I think that there are, in a lot of instances, too many cooks in the kitchen. For instance, on ESPN's website, there are 9 players on the Magic roster that are listed as guards, and that's not including the fact that you let Markelle Fultz walk this year. Now, I don't think all of them are going to play this year, but at some point, you're going to have to make decisions about roster. Now, I don't think all of them are going to play, obviously, but there has to be some level of confidence that you're only going to play 2 or 3. And at that point, who do you play? You have Jalen Suggs, who obviously made a great leap last year, was a defensive menace. You have Cole Anthony, who I think is best suited probably for this off-the-bench microwave kind of guy, but I could very easily see him being a starter. You have the young guy in Anthony Black. You have the project in Jet Howard. And then you have other players, too, like Javonte Smart and Mac McClung. Like, you have to incorporate all these players, but there's only so many roles that you can give on a team. The forward and center spot is a little messy, too. Obviously, you have Paolo, you have Franz Wagner, you have Wendell Carter Jr., but then you went and got Tristan da Silva, who I want to put out in the ether here, I think is a very good player. I don't think you could ever mess up a draft pick by taking someone who's a do-it-all forward. It was just very confusing to me at the time because of how good those first 3 players I mentioned were, Wendell Carter Jr., Paolo, and Franz. I'm not sure how much PT he's actually going to get. Again, I think the roster fit is a little weird, but if you were able to do it last year, I don't see why you couldn't do it this year as well. And even though the Eastern Conference teams are going to be a behemoth to get through, especially in the top 4, I don't really see a reason why the Magic couldn't be a top 4. Just off the top of my head, I don't think that they're going to be better than the reigning champion Boston Celtics, just because of the pedigree and the chemistry that they have, and obviously you want to run it back. I don't think that they're going to be better than the New York Knicks, especially now after that Karl Anthony Towns trade, but there may be a scenario where the Bucks and Dame and Giannis and Doc Rivers don't get this figured out, and they're bad again. And then, depending on health between Joel Embiid and Paul George, maybe the 76ers fall off too. So I think there's a real chance that the Magic end up being, at best, a 3 seed in the East. I don't want to say that that's a confident prediction, but I can definitely see an avenue where that becomes the actual fact. If I were to assume that everybody stays healthy and everybody figures it out, I think they're a 5 seed again, but I think that they do better in the playoffs. I know I'm not a Magic fan, but I do want to get on a soapbox for just a second at the end of this video here. The fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers and Magic series last year was put on NBA TV and not an ABC or an ESPN or TNT or whatever is so disrespectful. Both of those teams deserve better. I need the NBA and the presenting sponsors and the presenting partners, the TV partners of the NBA, to stop disrespecting teams in a lower market like a Cleveland or an Orlando, because those teams in that series was very, very good, but you never would have known because you couldn't find it. But that's all I've got today. Are you as high on the Magic as I am? Let me know down in the comments below. Check my link tray while you're at it. Join the Discord. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you tomorrow.